Good morning and welcome to the VSA Capital 5-Minute Morning Miner on Monday, January the 30th. We're nearly through the whole month. Morning, Ollie. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. It was a nice weekend, pretty mild, fairly dry, lots of sport, golf, squash, tennis, you name it. Yep, my wife's in Cornwall. I can do what I want. How about yourself?
I went to a Burns night supper on Friday.
Knocking back the old whiskies, were you?
Yes.
Bit of a hangover in the morning. Anyway, market's got a little bit of a hangover this morning. We're down about 20 points, 25 or so. A few stocks in the retail, the smaller ones coming off too. Where would you like to kick off this morning, Ollie?
Well, actually, on the Hong Kong exchange, Ganfeng announced an update on Sunday, saying updating on their profit expectations. So they're expecting profits for last year of between $2.65 billion US to $3.24 billion. So that's up from the prior year of $0.76 billion US. So a huge increase on the back of higher lithium prices. So having come off from sort of November through to late December, the share price is now rallying quite strongly on the back of China's reopening. It's now up 14% year to date, but obviously those lithium prices are still much higher than they were in 2021. And the way that the contract prices work, they've probably still got a bit of catching up to do to the spot prices, but there's not as much of a lag as there has been in previous cycles.
I mean, Ganfeng is one of the more acquisitive Chinese companies as well, isn't it? It'll be interesting if it carries on acquiring. They acquired Bacanora Lithium, which obviously we active for. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward, actually.
Yeah. And so with that, Atlantic Lithium had a quarterly update this morning. I don't think there's too much new news in. They're just going over the mining license submission, progress on feed, strengthening the management team, infill drilling and assays. So plenty going on in the period, but their share price, particularly in the last sort of 3 or 4 months, showing quite a similar setup as Ganfeng, but so far only up 10% this year.
Yeah, I think all the lithium stocks tend to actually go along together, don't they? Actually, it is quite noticeable that. Obviously, we will be seeing the Atlantic Lithium boys, although they're going to be in huge demand down at the Mining Endeavour next week.
Yep. Sticking with lithium, there's some assays out from Premier African Minerals. Long list, but broadly intercepts that were sort of between 5 and 10 meters. That's generally above 1% lithium. I think the best one is about sort of 8.79 meters at 1.64%, 10 meters at 1.17%. Consistent numbers at those sort of levels, showing good vein widths at good grades. Not quite as good as Atlantic Lithiums have been, but still not bad.
Yeah, George Roach, the CEO, is actually on site, I can tell you, at the moment there, because I was talking to him yesterday. I was trying to see if I could have dinner with him in Joburg later this week, but nope, he's on site. Actually, I mean, Prem's a fascinating stock. It's been a tremendous performer over the last year, and it has this massive volume and following. So well done, George. Why don't we move over to vanadium, ferroalloys? The news wasn't quite so good this morning, Ollie, was it?
No, they announced some delays, issues with concentrate deliveries to the pilot plant, the processing plant they've got up and running. So now they're expecting a slightly lower loss of $3.3 million for the year, although do expect concentrates deliveries to resume shortly. I mean, we said when we were covering the stock that the pilot plant, it's not a huge. I don't think that's where the value creation is, and small impacts on the earnings aren't going to be that detrimental, and certainly unlocking, making it break even isn't going to unlock massive upside for the stock. So I don't think that in itself is too much to worry about, but the Q4 2023 is now the timing for the feasibility study, so potentially not that much news flow until then.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, we follow the vanadium market a lot, mainly because we're such big fans of vanadium flow batteries. And obviously, last week, going around with Siemens Gamesa, it's quite clear that vanadium flow batteries are about to absolutely take off big time. And there's going to be massive demand for vanadium electrolyte. The real question that's going through my mind is it going to come from the miners, or is it actually going to come from the oil companies? Because it's so easy to make vanadium as a waste byproduct from catalysts in your oil refinery, that could actually take the price of vanadium basic down to zero, because it's just a waste product. That's the big question on my mind, and I don't know the full answer, to be honest with you. Anyway, there you go, a little bit of vanadium electrolyte thoughts. Anything else, Ollie?
Well, only to say that, I mean, with the big project that Ferroalloys does have, I mean, if a miner is going to do it, it's going to be one that's got the sort of cost profile that Ferroalloys does, because of all the byproducts that they've got. They've got negative cash costs and are actually pretty diversified against vanadium in the down cycle, but still got the exposure should prices go much higher, as they tend to do periodically.
I agree. The Ferroalloys project looks like one of the best vanadium mining projects out there if they get it up and running. And with Sir Mick Davis behind it, they should do. One of the questions, of course, is where does it leave the vanadium price? Currently around sort of $7-8. Actually, the long-term trend is more like $3. I'm not sure it'll go back down there, but I don't see much upside in the price of vanadium, because when you have people selling it as a waste product, they're happy if they get anything. So it's all about the price of vanadium, I think, is the key. And I don't know fully what the answer is, but I don't see much upside in the price of vanadium. I see more downside as we stand today. Anyway, that's my view on
it. Ares Strategic has come out with some news. They've been quite quiet for a while, but they sent a letter to shareholders last night highlighting that they are now been, I think, approved for federal level funding. So another sign that the Inflation Reduction Act is actually leading to tangible funds being deployed into the country. And there's more details to come in mid-February, according to the letter, but looks potentially like significant funding, and probably on better terms than they might have got commercially.
Yeah, Ares Strategic, it's on the TSX, but its business is actually in the States, isn't it? It's at Utah.
Yes, yeah.
So, okay.
And then I think last one is Trident Royalties. So they've announced record quarterly receipts of $3.5 million, taking year-to-date revenues to 13.8 million. So that's up 8 times year on year. Look like they've got a very strong cash position with 21.8 million in cash today, with a further 15.8 million due to come in from royalty sales. So looking quite well positioned to make further acquisitions and grow the business. The share price chart's a bit strange, though. It had a big blip in the summer, presumably linked to the sell-off in metals prices, but it's recovered quite quickly, and is now back in the range bound zone that it was trading in before, which is pretty much what the other small royalty players have been doing, is just settled within a trading range recently.
Well, there's quite a lot of strange share price movements in this market, but at least it's a lively market and there's liquidity in it. Also, bear in mind, obviously, all the Chinese are basically coming back from the Chinese New Year now. So we will start to see if demand for commodities starts to really pick up in China, which it could do and could catch a few people out. So we could see some quite nice rises, I feel, in the next in February in commodity prices. But let's wait and see. That's great, Ollie. We'll speak again tomorrow.
Cheers, Andrew.